Get on with it. What you want?
Can you hear him in the background already? Good evening, all. Hope you're all well. Thank you very much for coming over and joining us. Again, it's Friday, so we are joined by. We know Terry's on holiday, so we've got someone different in the chat tonight. Oh, my StreamYard's just now rebooting itself. There you go. So we have.
Perfect.
We have Brian, as always. Thank you, Brian, for coming. And we have Barry from Barry's Wood Creations joining us first. He's an airworm virgin.
Didn't you? Be gentle, folks. Be gentle.
But I'm sure he'll be fine. He'll be fine. So thank you very much, Barry, for coming and joining us.
Pleasure.
So if you've got any questions for Barry while he's here, you can always ask him some.
You can.
But be gentle. Be gentle. Be kind. Be gentle. Anyway, right. Right. So as always, if there's any questions while we're doing tonight's live, please put a Q before your question so the guys can pick them up. As the title says, we're going to go right back to basics. This is going to be for people who have really not turned, just basic bowl turning. So we're going to talk about mounting points, how to get the correct size mounting points, how to mount it onto the chuck, how to use the tool correctly, what causes bouncing, chip out, cuts, tear out, what causes catches. So we're going to go through the whole aspect of as much as we can get through. So if there's any questions while we're going through, then please put a Q in the chat and then we can pick the questions up. So first things first, I will go over to the lathe. If Brian wants to quickly read the chat out, and then we can make a start. Is that all right?
I will do that.
Good man.
Not a problem. So while Steve's getting himself over the lathe, he's got a huge long walk there from his intro camp to his lathe. So
the long old slog.
in the chat so far, we have Mr. G was first in. We had Rob from Woodturning, Dara Coulon's in, Norman Greenwell, Paul Houghton, the Gooseby Turner, Pete of the Twisted Trees, who apparently got lost on his way home from Yandles.
Oh, Pete.
Apparently his sat-nav on his bike is water-powered. Only works in the rain. Very good, Pete. Paul Finlay is in from Woodturning at Home. Trending Woodturning, which is a new name to me, I think. Maybe I've heard that name before somewhere, but I can't remember what the first name is. So we'll try and establish what that is in a minute. Dr. Bob is in, Shane Hurst, Ian Leach, Daz Barnwell, Anita Ball's in, Kev at 9K Creations. Oh, wouldn't be the same without Kev. Kev. We have Kelsey's Krafts is in. That's young Kelsey. Andy Bundy Rowe is in, as is Lucy Bundy Rowe, and Brian from Green Haven Creations is in, and Kate Kitchen is in as well.
Hi, Kate. Nice to see you. Congratulations on your tutor badge.
The crafty lass.
Right, so is that everybody? Yep.
So that's everybody so far. We've got 37 people in. I don't know if I've just read out 37 names. I don't think I did.
Well, welcome everybody.
Jennifer's Crafts and Creations is in. I must all right. Sorry.
Hello, Jennifer.
And that's everybody that I can see for now. Chris from Bailey's Woodwork is in. That's just another name just popped in there. JP Woodworks is in.
Hi, JP. How you doing, bud?
And that's us up to date, I think. And we'll just let you know who else comes in as we go along.
Lovely job. Thank you very much. So we will get cracking on. Right, so I have a piece of chestnut here that I'm going to use. It's not the best piece in the world, but it's only for demonstration purposes. So first things first, let's have a look at the different types of ways we can mount. So we can mount by a mortise or a tenon, which is shown on the screen. So
just another name just popped in there. JP Woodworks.
What have we got there?
You need mute your tab on your computer there, Barry.
So, can you mute your tab on your tablet, Barry? Right, so
I have a piece.
Right, what's going on there?
I think it's Barry's got his YouTube open, but he needs to mute the tab So if you point at the tab and right click it.
Right, you sorted? Yeah, I think so. Right. So mortise and tenon. So obviously a mortise is internal. So the jaws will fit inside our... No?
No, not sorted yet.
Hold on a sec.
Right. So obviously a mortise is where we're yeah, that's better. We're not getting back feed now. So yeah, we're still getting back feed.
Here we are, right?
How's that?
Yeah, that sounds, we'll see it.
Sounds okay at the minute. We'll see how it goes just when somebody else talks like me.
Yeah, so right, so
I was getting a bit of an overlap on the sound.
yes, because you got your YouTube is the YouTube's playing as well. That's the trouble.
I'm still getting back feed. Yeah.
Yeah, so what you have to do, Barry, is mute the tab on your browser.
For the chat. For the chat.
Where you've got YouTube open, right click on your mouse on the bar at the top, and you can mute that tab.
He's on a tablet for his chat.
You can still do it on a tablet.
Oh, can you?
Right, hold on a sec.
Right, we'll just wait for Barry to sort that out, and then we'll get cracked on.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Sorted.
So if I take YouTube off, how's that? Is that better?
Yeah, because what we was getting back feed on, because we can hear the intermittent on back feed on the YouTube channel.
Okay.
All right, mate.
All right. That's okay now, though.
Yeah, it seems good.
Good.
Yeah, that seems a lot better. Right, so
Alan Gibbs just joined us before he started.
Good evening, Alan. Right, so as we can see, we can use a mortise or a tenon. So the difference is a mortise is internal, so we'll be grabbing on the outside of our jaws, and a tenon is external, so we'll be grabbing on the inside of our jaws. So depending on what preference you're doing, normally if you're using end grain, it's advisable to use a tenon because you're actually compressing the fibers of the wood and holding it more secure. So that's more if you're doing end grain, then I would recommend, or most people would recommend, to use a tenon. When you're turning bowls, you can use a mortise or a tenon. A lot of beginners use a mortise because you haven't got to remove it afterwards, and if you ever want to finish your bowl, you can easily remount it and refinish it. So that's the pros of a mortise, but the disadvantage is you always got that chucking point on the bottom of your bowl. So if you get a bowl, I can find a bowl with a tenon on it, which should be quite easy really because it's a mortise on it, sorry. So you've always got that mounting point on the bottom of your bowl. Obviously if you put a tenon and you remove it, it looks a little bit more professional, and you've got no chucking point, and it looks a better finished piece. So they're the advantages and disadvantages of that. So mounting a tenon or a mortise and tenon correctly is really critical, because if you don't, you're not going to get the full benefit of the clamping capacity of the jaws. So with a manufacturer, the jaws will be a perfect circle with a little tiny couple of millimeter gap in between the jaws. So that is where you should be aiming to get the correct size. So if you haven't got the manufacturer's details, the easiest way, a couple of ways you can measure it, is you can use a steel ruler. So measure in between to get your sizes, or external to get your sizes, or you can use a pair of calipers. And if you're doing a mortise, you can set your calipers to your ideal size to set your mortise with. Or if you're doing a tenon, you can find, if I can find my other calipers, you can get a pair of external calipers like this, and you can set the external for your mortise or your tenon there. So several different ways you can pick up the sizes, but most manufacturers will tell you the ideal sizes when you or on their website or whatever. 9 times out, don't they come with the instructions on the chuck? To be honest,
They come with the instructions,
Yeah,
usually.
yeah,
Certainly
yeah.
Record Power and Nova.
yeah,
The
produce a
record
list
power
of-
ones do, don't they? Definitely.
Definitely do.
yeah, yeah.
They
So
give you a range of sizes that it will fit.
so that is, you know, so you see so many people turning a piece with a tenon, and their jaws are wide open like that, and all they're doing is they're clamping just on these little points here. They're not actually holding in the middle, they're just clamping on these little points here, which if you get a catch, it's just going to rip it out of the chuck because you're not getting the full clamping capacity. And you want to be getting that, you really want to be getting that clamping when that's the nearest to a perfect circle is what you can get. Most jaws like these, this is Record Power SC4. There's a slight dovetail on the external. So when you're doing your mortise, if you do a little tiny undercut on your mortise, it just gives you a little bit more clamping capacity. If you just do the mortise dead parallel, you're only going to be nipping on the widest parts of your jaws. So you're only going to be nipping on this real front edge. When you're doing a tenon, again, do a slight little dovetail. These are not really massively dovetailed on the Record Power jaws, but they have got a little lip around the inside. So if you wanted to, when you create your tenon, you could put a little tiny recess in the back of your tenon just so they grab a little bit better. I personally don't, because 9 times out of 10, when you do them up tight, they just dig into the wood anyway. Obviously, if I was doing it and I didn't want to clamp it too tight and I wanted to keep the mortise, or the tenon, sorry, as a decorative piece on my piece, then I would just put a little bit of a dovetail on it, just so that doesn't grab too deep and dig and mark my foot. Right, so that's basic ways to mount it to that through this. So mounting a bowl blank or a blank to your lathe without a mortise and tenon on it. Several different ways you can do that. You can use a face plate. Put it on the overhead camera, helps.
Would do.
Just focus that in because that's not the best focus.
We've got Terry Bray has joined us. Terry the Lobster Bray. His new nickname. Douglas Mungham's in, and Raymond Wise is in as well.
All right, guys, welcome. So you can use a faceplate ring that comes with your chuck. Now this is designed to grab onto your jaws, so it's a steel ring with a dovetail pre-cut into it, so grab onto your jaws. So the
a little tip there, Steve. Yep. That faceplate ring, if it comes with a chuck, is a perfect circle. So that's the size of your. That's the size you need.
Yep.
For a tenon.
So you could just put your calipers in there and set for that, couldn't you?
Yep.
So that would give you
a perfect circle then.
Perfect size circle. So
what I've tended to do, Steve, a couple of times with mine is I've just made up some plywood templates.
Yeah.
Just to sit over the tenon as you form the tenon, or a mortise, whichever you're doing.
Yeah, works well.
You're not having to readjust your calipers all the time. It's just a template that I've made that it's perfect fit, really.
Good idea.
Just a little jig. Perfect.
Yeah,
just a little jig. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So obviously your bowl blanks are never perfectly round. So I always measure my bowl blanks from the minimum of 4 places. Now that'll give me a little square in the middle. Now I know that center of that square is the center of my bowl blank. So what you need to do is, when you're putting this on, you need to then eye this up to the center. But what you can do is you can use a center finder like this, which is an engineering center finder, and do the same thing to find your center, but put longer lines on it. And then that will give you longer lines that you can use as guidelines to put your screws in. So you can see we've got parallel lines each side. So what we can do is we can line those 4 screw holes up with the gaps in our lines. So that will get us near to center as possible. So we can fix that way. The other way you can fix is with this sort of faceplate, which screws straight onto your main shaft of your lathe. Spindle, that's the word. So again, you can line that up exactly the same way as what you would do your faceplate, and then screw that too. I've only ever used that once, I think, since I've had it. I'm not a great lover of those personally. You can use a woodworm screw, which I don't use, but you can use a woodworm screw. Brian was using one last night, I believe.
I did. Yep.
If I can find, I don't even know where mine are, to be honest. So.
Robert Brock has just joined us.
Hi, Robert. They're in here somewhere. I know that.
And the woodwork learner's in.
Hi, Andy.
Oh, Andy.
So you can use a woodworm screw like that. I'm not a great lover of them. I don't use it very often. I think I've only ever used it once or twice. But a driller, is it a 7mm hole in there? And then wind
Well,
that.
it depends on the manufacturer. Some are 7, some are 8.
Right. So
you have to read the instructions.
So then that would clamp into your jaws and then wind that on to there. But my favourite method is to use a 54mm Forstner bit. That's my preferred method. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. So I'm going to go over to the drill. If I can find the button for the camera.
Kev at 9K says, Barry, your templates are brilliant. Do a video on making them.
Right, so right, so we've got our centre that we've marked. 54mm Forstner bit. So first Forstner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinpoint my centre like so, and then we're just going to take that down 4 or 5mm. Like that. You can go back over to our lathe. Right, so what we don't want to be doing is making that too deep, and then the mortise is bottoming out on our chuck. So if you see it, look on the picture now or on the screen, you'll see that it's showing you that obviously the correct, that's for a tenon obviously, but when we're talking mortises, similar principle, we're using the outside of the jaws rather than the inside of the jaws. But you don't want it hitting on the jaws. You see the red line at the bottom there. You do not want that to be touching on the tenon, and on your mortise, you don't want it. You don't want the bottom of the bowl hitting on the shoulder of your jaws here, because you're then not keeping it flush. You're relying on the face here. Well, we know this hole here is flush because we've just drilled it with a drill press. So we know that's perfectly flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that in, and you'll see that that is about 2mm away from the back of the jaw. So we know that is a perfect flush fitting on the flat of the jaws to the flat bit we've just drilled. So now we've mounted, we're ready to start turning. So tools we're going to use. We're going to
question just before you go there, Steve. A quick question from Douglas. What's the throat depth of your pillar drill, please?
Oh, blimey, that was a bit technical question. Hang on a second.
Yeah,
190mm.
And I was just going to point out the most jaw sets that I've come across, they're usually about 10 to 12mm deep. So you never want, if you've got a tenon or a mortise that's about somewhere between 4 and 6mm, that should do you.
Yeah, definitely. You don't need, the tenon doesn't need to be overly deep, does it? It's just to secure it. That's all it's all for. Right, so we're going to go to the bowl gouge. So the bowl gouge is comprised of several different parts. So we've got the heel of the gouge, we've got the bevel, we've got the cutting edge, and then we've got the wings, and then we've got the flute down the middle that allows the waste material to be ejected or out of the way, ready for the next cut. So you hear so many people say about riding the bevel. Sometimes riding the bevel too much can cause issues with bouncing and this, that, and the other. Same with the heel. If you're running the heel too hard, you end up with tram lines in your piece, which you will not be able to sand out very easily because you just basically burnished it and worn it over. So let's just go back. So on the gouge we've got here, this is a 3/8 bowl gouge. Zoom in closer.
Ward Wilson's in.
Hi, Ward.
Good evening, Ward. And JP's asking a question, what brand of Forstner bit does Steve use?
They are Record Power, believe it or not.
Nope.
Right, so the bevel, wherever you point that bevel is where the gouge is going to go. So if you want to do a cut that along that parallel line there, and your bevel is not following that parallel level or line, then you're not going to get that line there. You're going to come out here somewhere. So wherever that bevel is pointing is where your cut's going to be. If you push too hard on the bevel, you will end up burnishing your wood and can end up with a bit of bounce and then end up being jumpy, like this picture here. You'll see that if you're rubbing the bevel too hard, or not riding the bevel correctly, let's put it that way, you will get bouncing and you'll end up with little humps and bumps in your piece.
Mm-hmm.
If you just gently flow that bevel over and allow it to cut, and you're not forcing it, you'll end up with a lot better cut.
Yep.
So
Oh.
the thing is to let the tool do the cutting. You don't need to be forcing the tool. A nice sharp tool will do everything you want it to do without having to put any pressure on it. So we've got the two wings. This is what's going to cause us a catch if we get these wings too close to our internal, external of our bowl. 9 times out of 10, people, when they get a catch, is because they've overestimated where their tool is, and they've just brought it back a little bit too far and caught the wing, and that's what causes 9 times out of 10. That'll cause a catch. It's just about knowing where your tool is and just watching and just being patient. You see so many people trying to ram it through. Yes, okay, you'll see an experienced turner take out a 1/2 inch cut at a time, but that will come with experience.
Yeah.
So it's all about
light cuts is best.
Exactly. It's light cuts and a good sharp tool. A blunt tool will cause you more grief than a bad turning. You'll think that's bad turning, but it won't be. It'll be the tool will be blunt. So nice sharp tool.
Andy, the Valley
There's a couple
Woodturner, has a
couple of
question.
questions in the chat, Steve.
I'm going to answer this one for Andy quickly, because it's not related to this evening.
No.
Applying any inks or stains is before sanding sealer.
Yep.
If you're using inks or stains, it needs to get into the wood, so don't seal the wood first, seal afterwards.
Yep.
That's that question kind of dealt with. And the other question, Jennifer Craft Creations wants to know, Steve, can you show us how to use a carbide? But that's maybe for another lesson as well.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to. I will do one on carbides, but I won't do it tonight.
Not for
JP
tonight.
was asking, what brand of Forstner bits do you use, Steve?
Record power.
Record power, yeah.
Yep, record power there.
And
Right.
we have Seiko Designs in as well.
Hi, Seiko, how you doing? Right, so that's the basics of a bowl gouge. All gouges are very similar, other than a skew and things like that. But the same principles works with a spindle gouge as a bowl gouge. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to round off my piece because it's not perfectly round, as we can see. So the way I'm going to be doing that is I'm going to do some push cuts, but again I'm going to be lining my bevel up with the direction I want to go. If my bevel is around here, the piece is going to cut across. We don't want that. We want a nice parallel line across to round this off, so it's a nice round blank. Now you don't have to do this, but I like to start with a nice round flat blank before I start shaping. It's just a me thing, really. I think a lot of people do the same sort of thing.
It's quite important if you've got an off-balanced piece to bring it around, so as you can get a little bit more speed maybe too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because sometimes if you're not going quick enough, you can end up with quite a bit of tear out, can't you? So.
Oh, you'll certainly get a whole lot more bounce on your gouge.
Yeah. Right, so we're going to turn the lathe on. So we're going to turn the lathe on at a low speed, making sure we're all secure, then gradually bring up to speed. So what we're going to be doing now is the ABC. So we're going to anchor the tool, we're going to bevel it, ride the bevel onto our piece, and then we're going to lift the handle to create a cut. So that's what we're going to do. So anchor, create our cut, bevel, and then lift the handle to create my cut.
Yeah.
Again, I'm using that bevel to guide where I'm going to go. That's going to govern me where the tool's heading. I'm letting the tool do all the cutting. I'm not causing any pressure on the tool at all. And as I come to the end, I'm just going to reduce the tool, slow it down, just so it doesn't push past and bounce too far forward. So
You-
I'm
Line starts in.
Hi, Shug.
oh, Shark, how you doing? So I'm just going to do that again. So a little bit more speed now. So I'm just going to anchor it, get the cut, ride the bevel, keeping the handle low, to create that nice cut. Not forcing the tool at all, letting the tool do all the cutting. And then I'm going to slow it down as I come towards the end there, just so when it pops over the edge, we don't go flying past.
Door
No.
60's in. Good
Hi,
evening,
Doc.
sir.
How you doing, mate? So
By
that,
door.
that should be round now, which we are round. So now I'm going to flatten off the front, but this time I'm going to be using some shear cuts on the front, making sure our gouge is at the correct height. If I put the right camera on. So we want to make sure our gouge is at the right height. So that's slightly too high. So we're going to drop our tool rest a little bit. And I want it so when my handle is low, I'm riding just about the center of my piece. So that is about where I want to be. So again, we're going to get the speed up, anchor, just lift that up till you get a cut. And I'm just going to gently lift the handle, and then I'm just going to bring it through to create my cut. So this time we're using this side wing. If we bring it up like this and cut like this, we're going to cause a scraping action, which is we don't want that. We're not scraping, we're cutting. And the other thing you can do when you do that is if you come too far, you're going to hit on the top wing and end up with a catch, which you don't want to be doing. So again, we're going to get our cut, and then we're just going to gradually bring our piece across our wood. And we're going to keep doing that until we end up with a nice flat surface.
James Crawford's in.
All right, James, how
Good
you doing, mate?
evening, James.
So we've now got a nice flat piece of wood. So now we can mark our center, which we're going to use for our mounting point when we reverse it into our chuck. So we're just going to find our center. Now this is where your mortise and tenon comes into play. I will do a mortise because I should do really.
Katie's asking what speed were you doing there, Steve?
That speed was around
Oh,
about
nice.
1400 RPM.
It's a little small bowl, so that
Yeah.
speed's kind of acceptable.
Roy the boy's in.
All right, Roy,
Hi,
how you
Roy.
doing? So
Don't be left in bed now, then.
yeah, so that's where my tenon's going to be. So my tenon for this chuck is 46 millimeters. No, 48 millimeters, sorry, not 46. So that is 48 millimeters on the nose. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean away some of this waste material here, and then I'm going to start refining my tenon. So we're going to do the same principles we just did with cleaning the bottom of our bowl up. We're going to use a few shear cuts just to remove some of that waste material. Nice, gentle, we don't need no pressure. So we're just going to bring our tool in and then just gently clean some of that away. And we're just going to keep nibbling back towards our tenon.
What is that?
There's a question from Mr. G. What angle are you using on your bowl gouge, Steve?
45, 45.
And Dances with Aardvarks has just joined us.
Who has?
Dances with Aardvarks.
Dances with Aardvarks.
DWA.
So we're just bringing that, refining that a little bit into our tenon. We're not going to get too close to it because we're going to finish that in a minute.
And
So I'm going to make.
Gentle Woodturners in.
Hi Mark, how you doing? So I'm going to make that tenon
Hello,
around about. I'm going to make that tenon around about 4 to 5, well maybe 3 to 4 millimeters long. So we can now refine that tenon. So you can use several different ways to refine the tenon. You can use a skew just to clean up the tenon. You can use a spindle gouge. So if you use a skew, you obviously just follow the skew along the line. like so. But my preferred method is a spindle gouge. So I'm just going to drop that tool rest a little bit. So we're just going to bring that, I'll bring it on overhead. So again, we need to create that little bit of dovetail in there just to give that a little bit more security on our foot. So we're just going to use the spindle gouge just to gently bring that in. As you can see, we're just putting a little tiny dovetail on there. Just to give us a little bit of security. Now, if you wanted to keep that, as a little foot or something, you can just hollow out the bottom of it just to make it a little bit fancy. But for these purposes, excuse me, I'm just going to leave it like that. So now what we want to be doing is we now want to be shaping our bowl. So is that fuzzy, that picture, or is that my eyes?
Yes. Well, it looks not too bad.
It's not too bad.
Right.
So Gillian Oak has joined us.
Who has?
Gillian Oak.
Oh, hello, Gillian. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for coming over. Right, so we're now going to shape our bowl. So my preferred way to shape a bowl is so you get a nice continuous curve like that one or that one. I mean, there's several different ways to do it, but that's my preferred method to do a nice shaped bowl. So we're now going to use some shear cuts to start bringing the part of our bowl around. So we're going to keep our tool rest as close as we can to our piece to give us as much security as possible with our tool. And we're going to start just bringing that curve around with our tool. And again, it's not a race. It's about the best control we can get with our tool. So we're going to keep moving our tool rest.
Julian says, Patrick says, hello, Grandad.
Tell him it's time he was in bed.
Yeah. Why are you still up, Patrick?
Yeah.
So nice slow passes. If you try and force the tool, you're just going to generate heat and take the edge off your tool quicker. So you just want to take nice, slow.
Andy Woodward Lerner says, Steve, I thought you said you'd go do a mortise.
I was, but
he changed his mind.
People moan at me if I keep doing mortises.
Who would do such a thing? Oh, that would be me.
Just checking to make sure everybody's paying attention.
That's exactly what he was doing. The only one who is paying attention is Andy.
Exactly.
So we're just going to keep shaping this. Let's go on that one there. I'm looking at the wrong screen. I've got the screen in front of me, which is 30 seconds behind.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah. Didn't you not tell Barry not to be watching the YouTube?
Yeah, I know, and I'm watching it.
And you're doing it yourself. Yeah. Apparently, Mark the German Woodturner has his van loaded and everything sorted for Yandles. You'll see anyone who's going there tomorrow.
Another question from Douglas. Douglas Mungham. Steve, is there anything that dictates a mortise or tenon?
End grain. If you're doing end grain piece like I did Sunday, then I would definitely use a tenon on that, so that you can grab. So you're crushing those fibers, because being end grain, if you crank it open, being green, it could split open. So that would be one thing that I would do. But if you're trying to do something that's thin, then I wouldn't use a mortise, because when you crank it up, you could split it. And I've done that myself. You just over tighten it a little tiny bit and that just splits down a bit of grain. But depend on the look of. You mean I think a mortise looks okay, but when you get, you know, you can still see where it's been chucked. And I think the idea is that you want a piece that looks like it hasn't been on a lathe, don't you? That's the idea of it. So it's finished to a higher level. That's the idea of it.
If you're selling your stuff at a local fair or something, nobody's going to know if you leave a tenon or mortise in your piece. If you're entering a competition, it won't go anywhere if it's got a chucking point on the bottom.
No.
Basically, take your chances there.
It's just removing it at the end of it, and that's all it is. It's just spending that little bit extra time just removing the tenon.
Mm-hmm. Wood dude then. Even Stephen.
Right, Stephen.
Pete says he's going back to Yandles tomorrow, but in the van, not the bike. He says it's illegal to take a vehicle with a restricted carrying capacity to his tool shop. But you just have to treat the day as a reconnaissance mission, Pete. So now you should know exactly what you're going to buy.
He's already bought everything. Everything's behind the counter. He's just got to pick it up tomorrow.
Yeah. Just make sure the van's empty when you get there.
All right, so we're just bringing that edge round to blend into the top of our bowl. Again, these are all shear cuts. Just letting that cutting edge glide over our piece. Not putting any pressure on it to generate any heat or take the edge off our tool.
Pete from Twisted Trees has asked a question. Steve, if you watch it on YouTube 30 seconds after you make the cut, can you use that to redo it if you get a catch?
Yeah.
It's like live rewind. Is that what you're saying? Right, so we've got our curve starting to form now. We're just a little bit bulgy here. I'm just going to take a little bit off this bit here. It was a little bit close.
Oh, Paul Cameron's in. He says, "Hi, hello from the Shed of Doom." Well, if it's Shed of Doom, it's entirely of your own making, Mr. Cameron.
Hello, Paul.
That looks better. That looks better. Got more of a natural curve in there. So when I'm cutting hair, I'm actually looking over here to see my shape appear. You can't see the shape appear in here, but you can see it at the back of the bowl. So, you know, I mean, you don't want to be watching your tool all the time. You want to be watching over here. So obviously watch your tool so you can control it, but keep an eye on the back so you can see the form of the shape appearing as well.
So we have Steve Gordon in as well.
Hi, Steve. How you doing? So that is, I've just got a little bit there I just want to get rid of. Just got a little bit in there. Just reformat a little bit.
And Dara suggests, Steve, Dara suggests you can still turn with the mortise. And if you do, you can always turn it around and make the mortise into a foot.
Yeah.
And that does away with the chucking point. That's entirely correct.
Yeah.
I've done that with tenons a couple of times. Left the tenon only like a couple of mil tenon and not clamped it too tight and then just use that as a little foot.
You can do that too, yeah. And Brian with the Y has joined us.
Good evening, Brian with the Y. How the devil are you?
Evening, Brian.
Right, so that's my shape. I'm then going to sand this. You know, you got a little bit of tear out on it. You could, if you wanted to, you could do a push cut the other way. Actually, let's do that. See if we can get rid of some of the tear out by doing a push cut the other way rather than sanding it out. So I'm going to get a little 10mm bowl gouge.
What? And Fred Gulliver's in as well. Apparently, I've missed Fred. Sorry, Fred.
Hi, Fred.
My apologies.
Right, so a little 10mm bowl gouge. We're going to do a push cut all the way around, trying to remove some of our tear out. So just a gentle push cut all the way around. Just take a mil off. Just gently floating that bevel over our piece, just to try and give the best cut we can get.
I've missed a question. Douglas says I've missed a question. Oh, Douglas says, question. I was thinking weight, size, wood type, unspalted. Is this for chucking points? We're talking about Douglas.
So. That's what he asked, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah. All those things apply. You're quite right. You've got to take into account the size of the piece of wood, the condition of the piece of wood, if it's spalted or is it punky, what type of wood it is, a hardwood or a softwood. All these things have to be taken into account, and you can only learn that by experience, really.
So that's just one little push cut. We'll just clean that, keeping that nice and sharp in the bottom there for our chucking point. So that's removed quite a bit of that tear out in there. So we've still got a little tiny bit on the end grain here, but actually on the side grain is now all the tear out is gone. So we're just going to gently sand that up. So
Malcolm Douglas is in.
Hey Malcolm, how you doing? So we're going to spend a bit of time sanding. Going to spend a little bit of time sanding because it is quite important. If you don't sand it correctly, when you come to put your final finish on it, it will illuminate every single sanding mark there is. So if you've got any tool marks in it, any tear out, it'll just illuminate every single little bit of it. So we're going to slow the lathe down to about 600 to 700 RPM, and we're going to be using the Simon Hope inertia sander here. Put it on a rear view so you can see a little bit better. So, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going in the 7 o'clock area. So we're going to just gently use, we're only using a third of the pad on each side, so that you'll end up with a third in the middle that you've not actually used. So we're just going to gently bring that around, and we're going to just keep doing that until we remove all our unwanted marks. So this is 120 grit. We're going to use the 120 grit to remove all our unwanted marks. And then as soon as we've done that, we'll then go up the grits to finish off a final grit that we desire ready for our final finish.
And Brian Walker has joined us.
Hi, Brian. So you don't need to apply any pressure with this. If you put too much pressure on it, all you're going to do is generate heat on the sanding pad and just melt the sanding pad and burnish a piece of wood, which is what you don't want to do.
Hang on a minute.
And heat destroys sandpaper.
It does. You don't need no pressure. As you can see, there's no pressure at all. All I'm doing is just holding it onto the wood. I'm not pushing onto it at all. And it's easier to control it down here than it is to try and do it here. It's easier to do it on this angle here.
Around 7 o'clock somewhere. 7 and 8.
So we're just going to stop that and check it. So all the tool marks have gone. We've just got a little bit of tear out on that end grain there. So we're just going to give a little bit more.
Douglas says he's done the Hampshire Sheen course. Good man, Douglas.
Well done, Douglas. You can always go back a grit, Steve, if need be, can't you?
Yeah, if you need to, you can always go down to 80 grit and try it.
There's no shame in starting with 80 grit. Absolutely not. Particularly in the beginning when you're starting to learn. If you're leaving tool marks, 80 grit can get them out for you. Particularly if you've got a not so good piece of wood that's producing a lot of tear out.
Yeah. So we'll just check that. Right, so that's all that tear out gone now. So now we can move up our grits. Now you'll know the difference between tool marks and sanding marks. Tool marks will be around the piece. Sanding marks, if you're using an inertia sander like this, will be swirls. So if you can see swirls in your wood, they're obviously sanding marks. If you can see marks around the edge going in the same rotation as the piece, then they're obviously tool marks. So all I can see in there is a few little swirl marks from my 120 grit paper.
So Ben's in. He says,
Hi,
good
Ben.
evening all. I won't be staying long. I'm far too advanced for basic wood turning. And Roy the boy's asking, who's the other earworm? It's Barney Oak.
Oh, I can't believe that, Barry. He didn't know you.
I didn't tell him.
Oh, didn't you?
We've been hearing about your stories today, Mr. Roy,
Oh,
and your trip to the auction. Heather from Spirit Wind, the Wood, Stone and Bone has just joined us. Hi, Heather.
How you doing? So the job of the 180 grit sandpaper is to remove the sander mark from the 120. So you shouldn't need to spend loads of time on the next grit above, because all you're doing is removing the 120 grit sandpaper scratch marks. So as soon as you've done that, you can move up to the next grit.
What's your favourite sequence, Steve? Everybody has a kind of favourite sequence.
I always do 120, 180, 240, 320, 400.
There you go. I do a similar thing, but I don't do 320. Kind of miss it out.
Yeah, I do the same, really, right through. But I do use the 320.
Roy says it doesn't sound like him.
He's got his posh voice on, Roy.
Yeah. He's got his microphone voice on.
So that's got rid of the...
I need to be speaking to you tomorrow, Roy.
Ooh, sounds ominous, Roy. I'd go and hide if I was you.
Trying to get me to spend money today was...
It was
not. I don't believe that with Roy.
There was always a bit of money to be made, he said.
Yeah.
Oh, what is he like? If there's any 3/8 bowl gouges there, I'll have one.
Any what, sorry?
3/8 bowl gouges.
There was a couple of really nice ones.
Oh.
I've got my eye on them, Brian.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Dang.
Right, so this is the last one.
Pete says my preferred method is a 180 blowtorch. We know what you're like in pyrography, Pete. It's extreme pyrography.
So I'm not worrying about this area here too much, because obviously we're going to be taking that tenon off there, so we're going to have to resand the bottom anyway.
Oh, Roy the boys just said, today you was meant to call me, Barry.
Call you what?
I don't know.
I did, Roy, and you didn't answer this afternoon.
Well, there you go, see. It's your own fault, Roy.
You were obviously otherwise engaged. You were looking for all them lots in the auction, I expect.
More likely. Paul Kavanagh standing. I do 80, 120, 180, 80 again, and then some 60, and then half a brick, a hammer, and then the bin. Good man, Paul.
Right, so that's now sanded up to 400 grit. Now you only have to go, if you're using Yorkshire grit, you only have to go up to 240 grit. But I'm going to use Yorkshire grit, but I wanted to just go through the showing you that it doesn't take long, as long as you get that first. The first grit is the most important. If you get that first grit right, get rid of every mark with that first grit, the rest of it is fairly easy and fairly quick. But if you don't get rid of those tool marks, if you don't get rid of them with 120, then obviously, like Barry said, go back to 80 grit and try 80 grit. And if you've really got tool marks, you can go back even further. But if you got to go back that far, then maybe you should practice with the tools a bit better first.
Yeah, try another cut first.
Yeah. But then once you've removed all the marks, tear out this, that, and the other, then the rest of the grits up to the desired grit you want should not take very long, because obviously you're just removing the scratch marks from the previous grit. So you shouldn't be that long onto it. Right, so
you shouldn't be sanding for half an hour or 40 minutes or something.
No. And you can get a good finish. If you do the sequence correctly, you'll get a good finish whether you spend 20 minutes on it or an hour and 20 minutes. So this is a cellulose sand and sealer, chestnut cellulose sand and sealer. There are acrylic ones out there if you desire it. I've always used chestnuts for just natural wooden pieces if I'm not using oils. The only time I really use the Hampshire Sheen one is if I'm colouring. So I'm going to give this is diluted 60-40, just so it soaks into my timber a little bit better. So I'm going to give this a coat, and then we're going to let it dry off a little bit. Just going to let it flash off to dry, and then I'm going to denib it. The reason I put on a couple of coats is I like to make sure that it's sealed really, really well. I find the better it's sealed, the better the finish you'll get on your wax. And
Steve, can I ask a question?
Yes, mate.
How do you know if you've got enough sanding sealer on there?
I knew you was going to say that. That's payback, that is. That's payback. Right, so when you know you've got enough sand and sealer is you'll see a continuous sheen across your whole piece. If you've got sheeny pieces here and then dull pieces around here, that means you've got hard and soft grain, and the sand and sealer absorbed in more in the soft grain than it has the hard grain. So it needs more. It's more a thirsty piece of wood on the end grain. 9 times out of 10 it will be on the side grain. So you need a continuous sheen across it. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to denib that. So I've got a bit of Scotch Brite here. We're just going to gently rub this across it. All this is going to do is take any high spots of grain off, because as you put your sand and sealer on, the grain will swell a little bit.
Oh, Paul Captain and Douglas Mullen are having good fun here. Douglas says, Paul, my turning is that bad. The blank looks better before I work on it. Paul retorts back. He says, I was sanding a really annoying mark the other night. After 30 minutes, my wife told me to leave my brother alone.
So a second coat of sand and sealer. And hopefully by the time we've put this coat on, you can see a continuous sheen on our piece, so we know that it's had enough. If you've got a piece that's really thirsty, you might have to put 3, maybe 4 coats on. But that's the benefits of thinning your sand and sealer down, because it will soak into the wood and seal it. If you don't seal it, when you come to put your wax on it, when you polish your wax up, you generate a little bit of heat, so the wax melts a little bit, and the wax will soak into the wood, and you'll end up with a dull finish. You really want a nice. The idea of wax is to get a nice sheen or shine on it. So we're just going to do this again.
You'll notice it particularly if you go to lacquer it afterwards.
Yes, you will.
If you haven't got enough sanding sealer in, you'll know.
Yeah, that'll take about 7 coats to get a shine on it.
There you go, right?
Oh, nice glass of wine there. Excellent.
I like that.
So I'm going to go over this with Yorkshire Grit Original. Like I say, if you're going to use Yorkshire Grit, you can just go up to 240 grit, because that's where Yorkshire Grit starts. But I want to go up to the 400 grit just to show everybody. So Yorkshire Grit, just going to put a nice generous amount over our piece.
Yeah, Ward Wilson has just put a comment in. He says Heather has explored the total use of sanding. She has, if you watched her latest little video.
Haven't seen it.
She was sanding the hairs off her leg.
Oh, jeez.
Apparently.
Right, so going to start off about 500 RPM, and we're just going to gently work. We're going to be using the pads of our fingers, not the tips. Lie our tissue on it, and we're just going to keep moving that about to allow the abrasive paste to break down, to bring us up to a final grit of around about 1,000. You're going to spend 3 or 4 minutes working this in.
Kevin, I will not be singing. I can assure you of that.
Nope.
So we're going to spend 3 or 4 minutes of working this in. Your Yorkshire Grit's not going to work in a minute, 2 minutes. It will take 2 to 3 minutes to start breaking down to get you up to that final desired grit. So a lot of people think you can put it on, spend 30 seconds rubbing it over, and you're to where you need to be, and it's not the case. You have to spend that little bit of time of just working and letting that pumice stone break down to get to your final grit. You don't need to apply pressure. If you apply too much pressure, you'll end up generating heat, and you can end up cracking your piece, or even worse, burning your fingers. So you don't need to apply any heat, any pressure at all. We're just going to keep that
So-
moving.
Question there from Kate Kitchen. She says she can never find a data sheet online for Yorkshire Grit. I've never tried to look for it,
No.
but it's a completely natural product. But if you want the data sheet, Kate, email
Doug
Easy Wood
Dixon.
Tools.
Yeah.
Email Doug Dixon at Easy Wood Tools.
Anybody who sells Yorkshire Grit should have a data sheet. So is it DJ Evans? They're this UK supplier, aren't they?
DGM, that's the UK distributor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so try them, Kate. They might have a data sheet for it. So we're going to keep. So I'm just going to speed my lathe up a little bit. Just keep moving this about.
Dara says she's raging because she was watching a demo the other night that was done in the States, presented by an Easy Wood demonstrator, and she was calling Yorkshire Grit a finish. I wanted to scream, she says.
Not a finish.
Well, I hope you told her it's not a finish. It's a preparation for a finish.
Yeah, it's surprising. There are a lot of people that think it's a finish.
They
Actually,
do, because it's got some wax in it, and it does shine a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not a finish.
yes, Roy. I did see your video today.
Oh no,
Nice.
I wish we have a video.
Good little video.
Pallet wood, thank you.
Oh, pallet wood thing, was it? I did see that. I haven't watched it yet.
So you can see that all the sand and dust has been held in our tissue. So we're going to get a clean piece of tissue now, and we're going to go over it. Again, we're going to get a nice pad. Going to use the pads of our fingers, and we're just gradually going to rub that in, and this should gently take off the remaining wax on our piece. And we're looking for the tissue to come off clean, and then we know that we've removed all the wax off of our piece, ready for our finish. So again, you don't need no pressure, just moving it about to keep it moving.
Yeah, Douglas is pointing out that Shay from BB Turning has a thing called the Yorkshire Grit bit, where he tells a story about, it's usually about legends in Ireland,
Right.
which is quite entertaining if you watch Shay's YouTube channel, BB Turning.
So we're just going to keep changing our tissue until it comes off clean, really. And I think we are there.
Ben says to be. I think he meant to be fair. If you want a matte look, just use Yorkshire Grit. Just using Yorkshire Grit is fine. It's just like sanding to a high grit and using some matte wax. It is, but remember that it's beeswax. It's very, very soft, and fingerprints will kind of melt. If somebody's holding the bowl, it will melt the wax. It won't stay shiny. It just will not stay shiny. It's too soft to wax.
So we just
That's why it's not a finish.
we just give that a wipe over just to make sure we've got it all off. The tissue's nice and clean. So now we can apply our final finish. Obviously, there's several different waxes out there. Hampshire Sheen High Gloss is my go-to wax. I do prefer that. You can use the microcrystalline. There's Chestnut Wax 22, and obviously microcrystalline chestnut as well. But Hampshire Sheen High Gloss is my preferred wax. So again, we're going to create a little pad tissue. Just going to put a minimum amount on. You don't need a massive amount. And we're just going to work that into our piece. Nice even coats, working it into us nice and even. Just spend a little bit of time making sure we get good coverage on the whole piece. And then we're going to get a clean piece of tissue. And we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to create a little pad. We don't need to apply any pressure. We'll just rely on the friction between the pad and the piece to create our shine. So we're going to speed the lathe up a little bit, about 800 RPM. And I'm just going to lay that tissue on there. I'm just gently going to move that tissue around to remove the excess of the wax. To start bringing me up.
William Kenny's joined us. Good evening, William.
Just to start to bring me a
Hello,
little bit of a sheen up. So I'm going to keep rotating my tissue, so it gives me a clean piece every time. If you can feel it grabbing the tissue, then you've still got wax that you need to remove on there. So that's our first coat. I'm going to put a second coat on this. So we're going to give it a second coat.
Yeah, Andy Woodward Learner says he uses a matte finish. He hides it under he hides the piece under a mat so you can't see it. Yeah, you're not that bad, Andy.
So I'm going to use a piece of safety cloth for finishing this off. So again, we're going to
this chestnut safety cloth.
Yeah, it's chestnut safety cloth. Making sure it's got it with my fingers, so if it gets caught, it's not going to pull my hand in. Just holding it with my tips of my fingers. And again, we're just going to use that just to move around, just to buff that up.
There's some chat going on here about needing subtitles for people who are coming from Yorkshire. and Kate responds, "Don't worry, I'll talk slow and try to stick it to my posh voice." You mean you have a posh voice, Kate? Just you speaking your normal accent and let other people catch up with you. I try to make a deal with people. I'll slow down a bit if you listen quicker.
Listen quicker.
Steve Douglas says, "Is that a winter coat?"
Winter coat?
Oh, winter.
Don't need a winter coat in here, Douglas. Right. So that's the final wax finish. So it's not a perfect shine, but it's got like a little bit of a sheen to it. So don't always want. If you want a deeper shine, you can add more coats, or like Brian said earlier, you could lacquer. So it depends on how you want to finish.
Shiny cells.
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes I think that depends on the size. A small bowl looks better shiny than a bigger bowl. I think personally. Right. So that's the outside all done. So as you can see, nice finish. No tool marks,
Very
no
nice.
sander marks. It's nice. Actually, that's a nice figured bit of wood for a manky bit on the outside.
It is.
So
Lovely.
now we're going to hold on with our tenon that we created earlier. And as you can see, we've got a nice, actually put on that camera there, got a nice short, small gap there, which is not tight yet. So when I tighten it up, got a nice couple of millimeter gap there, which means that we're virtually to our optimum clamping capacity for our chuck. So like I say, mortise and tenons, correct size are fairly important, are really important. Right, so now we can start to hollow out the inside. So we can start to remove this. Now, there's several ways to start to remove your material in the middle.
So,
Go on, sorry.
Gillian is asking a question. Where did you get that piece of wood from?
This piece of wood. Couldn't tell you where this come from. Couldn't tell you where this come from. Didn't come from Barry, if that's what you're asking.
Wasn't a bit hard to give you.
No, it's not a bit Barry gave me. I don't know where it come from, to be honest. It's obviously been given to me a long while ago because it's filthy. Look, it wouldn't have come to me that colour. Right, so several ways you can hollow these out. If you're going to go for a thin wall, you really need to leave a core in the middle to keep the stability there. If not, you're going to get a lot of vibration and can cause issues. If you're going to go for a fairly decent thickness of wall, then you can take it out all the way through. But I've actually started to learn to leave a little bit in the middle there because it always ends up, you end up with you seem to get a better cut on the inside because the bowl doesn't vibrate so much.
I don't know Kate very well, but I like her sense of humour. She replied to that question about where do you get the wood from? A tree. And Kev says, Brian, if I get some cameras, will I be allowed to really annoy? You work away, Kev. We'd be delighted to see you turning. We can all have an interesting look at your turning. That would be good.
So again, we're going to do some shear cuts just to flatten this off. There we go. So now we can start taking out our center. So I'm going to make sure my tool rest is where I need to be. So as you can see there, it's a little bit above center, but the reason it's above center is because I've just done shear cut. So now we're going to drop it a little bit, just so we're above center or around about center. So again, it's the ABC, anchor, bevel, cut. So we're going to anchor our tool. We don't need to put loads of pressure on our tool. We're just using this hand as a guide. There's no pressure on it at all. We're going to ride the bevel. So we're riding the bevel of the tool, no cutting at the moment. And then we're just going to gradually lift our handle until we see that tool start to cut, which is there. And now we can start to allow that to feed itself in to give us a cut. So it's anchor, bevel, cut. And letting the tool do all the work. So again, going to anchor it, bevel it, lift the handle till we get the desired cut we want. And we're going to gently bring that tool in. We're not applying any pressure at all to the tool. This hand is not doing anything at all. It's just here to control, or there just to lay that little bit of weight onto the tool.
That's excellent, Kev. Kevin 9K says he's been invited to do his AWGB tutor exam in May. Oh, good job, Kev.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we're just going to create a little bit more speed on that, and then we're going to start taking it out. So again, anchor, bevel, cut.
Roy's stirring the pot there a little bit,
He's
buddy.
stirring it up. Roy, you're stirring it.
I'm just going to turn this tool around so it's sharp on the other end. So now we're getting further back. We need to think about going into to create the shape of our bowl. So this is where the bevel comes into play. We're going to start to work the bevel into the angle that we want the bowl. So over our bed, we're going to gently nick the tool or the piece so we can start to get a cut, and then we're going to let the tool just gently feed its way in. And as we're doing it, we're just going to bring the tool across the bed so we can carry on our cut on the other side of our bed.
Did we say Paul Finley? Paul Finley's in.
Yeah, we did. Paul was in really early. So
I thought I thought I'd seen him earlier. Yeah.
Yep. He was in just after Pete from Twisted Trees.
So again, we're going to come. I'll put a bit of light on that, so I can see. So again, we're going to bring the tool over, let it cut. So wherever that bevel goes is where our cut's going to go. So we're not putting any pressure on the tool. We're letting the tool do its own thing. We're just controlling it. I've got a little bit of a thick cut there, so I'm going to come back and just take that down a little bit.
Rob from Klingspor has just joined us. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Rob. How you doing, mate?
Well, Rob.
We're just going to keep
Thanks,
removing
Kevin.
it.
That's nice of you to say that.
So we're just going to keep doing that until we get to the desired wall thickness. We're just going to stop that and check it, making sure we're not getting too thin at the bottom. So we've got fairly equal, near enough perfect on equal all the way through there, so we know we're going in the right direction. So we're just going to keep this going. Now, when you go in with your tool, you want to be looking on the outside of the bowl to try and create the outside form on the inside. So we're going to use the bevel of the gouge to try and recreate that outside shape on the inside.
So Rob from Klingspor says he's doing great. He's just finished loading the car up for tomorrow. I take it you're off to Yandles as well, Rob? Let's hope you sell loads of sandpaper. Or abrasives. Kevin says, I'm glad it's not 3D. I would have just ducked from those shavings.
Ooh.
Yeah, he was kind of firing them at the camera there, wasn't he?
It's just come loose, I think. Perhaps I didn't do that tight enough.
It's a bit damp that way, isn't it?
No, I don't think I did it tight enough.
Okay. It's always a good idea if your wood is a bit damp or wet.
To check it.
Maybe check your cannon. The fibres will compress more readily when the wood's wet. Right.
I'm getting a little bit of bounce now, so that tells me one of two things. Either the curve in the bottom's getting too tight and I'm riding the heel, which I know it's not because that's not a tight curve in there, or my gouge is getting blunt. So I'm just going to sharpen that up.
Good job. Yep, Rob says he has a stall at Yandles tomorrow. Good job.
Good man.
Kev says wet wood, question mark.
Nope, it's not wet wood. It's
That's
bone
not
dry.
wet wood now.
Bone dry. I don't think I did that tight enough.
Yeah, bone is dry. It just wasn't up tight enough.
Yeah, I used to go to Yandles quite a bit actually when I lived down that part of the country, but it's a bit too far for me to go now from up here.
Yeah.
But I used to regularly go down to their events.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to go to Yandles once with Pete of the Twisted Trees when I was staying with him one time. He ran me over.
Yeah.
It was a nice shop. Nice people too.
Lovely people, yeah.
Lots of lovely wood too.
Yeah. You need to take plenty of money with you when you go to them places.
I would say, yeah. Douglas is asking, are you okay, Barry?
Yes, I'm fine. Thanks, Douglas.
Right. Malcolm's going to Yandles tomorrow.
Right. Nice sharp bowl gouge.
Good.
Both ends, so we've got two ends to bash out. Right. So let's do it again. Oh,
DJ Evans is your nearest Roy.
That's different.
Sounds different.
Yeah, DJ Evans, Roy. I've not been to their shop yet, but
Mick Hughes has just joined us. Sorry,
Mike.
Mick Hughes has just joined us. He says, "Could you start again, Steve? I missed that. I had visitors."
Hang on, yeah, just for you, Mike. I'll rewind it. Right, so we just got a little tiny bit thinner at the bottom than we have on this outside wall. So I'm just going to take a little bit thicker cut here and just feather it into the bottom.
So Lucy said that Lucy says we're taking money and an empty roof box to Yandles tomorrow. Where are you putting the kids, Lucy? They're not going in the roof box.
In the roof box.
you won't get enough. There won't be enough space in the roof box. You need to take a trailer as well.
It's starting to sound like a meet-up of the chat at Yandles. Pete's going, Malcolm's going, Rob's going, Lucy and Andy are going. Who else is going?
All right, let's have a look at that.
Oh, Ben says I've been to DJ Evans. It's well worth a visit.
Whereabouts is that? Whereabouts is
I
DJ?
have no idea.
Is it Suffolk way?
Yeah,
No, I'm not actually sure. I think it might be in Suffolk, but I wouldn't be certain.
Royal tell us. He knows where it is.
Roy would know.
Might be worth a road trip one day if that's in Suffolk. Right, so
Yeah.
got a little bit of a tool mark in there. So before I move this centre, I'm just going to use the 60-degree grind and see if I can get rid of some of those tool marks. So we're just going to...
Oh. Deb's not going to Yandles because Ely have an open day tomorrow.
Be a long drive for you, Kev, going to Yandles.
Ben says it's in Bury St Edmunds.
Oh, that's not too bad then.
Oh, that's not too far. Not too far from up here, is it?
No.
I'm down in Bury St Edmunds next month. So
Yeah, because you're demoing down there, aren't you? Yeah.
I've got a demo down there, so perhaps it might be worth a visit.
All right, so we're going to remove this centre cone now. So I've got to where I want to go there, got rid of nearly all, got a little tiny running mark there, which I'm not going to worry about too much, just where it's been bounced a little bit. So now we're going to remove this centre core. So we're going to do some back cutting with the bowl gouge. So going to ride the centre, chisel out the centre, and then gradually bring the tool across to remove out that. We can use that to cut, just some push cuts. As long as you don't catch this outer wing on the inside of your bowl, you should be fine.
Greenhaven Creations says, I'd love to attend Yandles, but my private jet's in the shop at them right now.
Oh, and DJ Evans is a clean sport distributor. There you are.
All right.
My laver's making a funny noise.
Pete did mention at the beginning about using a mortise when you're turning a bowl. He says it puts you 5 millimeters closer to a funnel.
Yeah, it does.
And Raymond White says, do they do any wood turning shows in Scotland? And the answer to that, and to my knowledge, is no.
I haven't heard of it that way.
Anybody else who is in Scotland maybe know better than I do. But I hadn't heard of any. Question you need to ask Wayne, I think.
Bob Kavanagh says, when we have Battle of the Makers, the nations, Brian and William from Ireland versus the losers from the other countries.
Ooh. Ooh.
That'd dig at you, Brian.
No. Battle of the Makers, the Four Nations we're going to call it.
Oh, right, Four Nations. Oh, yeah. Right, so we've got a little bit of a hump from there to the middle. So we're just going to go back to traditional grind just to clean that out. Going to move our tool rest round so we've got the best support we can get for our tool. We're going to bring that in, pick that up just where the hump is, and then just gently move that through.
Is Kate demoing in Ely on the 3rd of May? That what's going on there? Is that what's happening in the chat?
Don't know.
Yep. She says, say hi to everyone in Ely for me and tell them to brace themselves. And DJ Evans apparently has all the record power, Charnwood and Sorby stuff.
Definitely a road trip, I think.
Yeah.
I think he should.
So that's a nice curve in there now. We'll just
Heavy
check.
wallet.
Go on.
No, if you're going to say heavy wallet and empty boot.
Yeah. Ooh.
They're close.
She's close. There's only
Oh,
about 5 mil, I think, at the bottom of that.
Oh.
that's closer than you've been for a while.
What am I doing? Sanding. Right, so we're going to sand. I'm going to power sand this. If I can find a drill. So I'm going to take this from 80 grit because we've got a few little tool marks in there. And because I've now taken that center out, it's actually a little bit chattery. So if I try and get in there now, I'm going to end up with chatter marks in there, which is going to make it worse than what it already is. So let's get the extraction on.
Don't sand through the bottom, Steve.
Oh well, that's not that thin. So we're just going to gently sand that up, and I want to bring the edge of this sandpaper only to the edge of my bowl. If I can't get past that, I'm going to actually be creating a round curve on there, and I don't want to be doing that. I want to keep that a nice sharp corner on there.
Tusk. Nothing wrong with a nice rolled edge.
No, I know, but sometimes a nice sharp edge is nice as well. So again, we're using this grit just to get rid of all my tool marks and any imperfections in the wood. I can feel we've got a little bit of a hump there, so I'm just going to go over that a little bit. We'll just sever that into there. We'll have to get Kate on as a special guest there, well.
No. Adam from I Love Woodturning is in. I've got a feeling he's been in from the beginning. Right. But he says, if you're going to DJ Evans, you might as well carry on afterwards to Hope Woodturning. It's only 50 minutes away. That just sounds like a whole lot more expense.
Right, so let's go up the grits.
How's your foot been today, Brian? I know you were suffering a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, still sore. Still sore.
Is it?
It is better than it was, but it's still.
Ah.
What have you done?
Drill's just run out.
No, I know.
I have to
get
get
the battery.
Yeah, give us a second. I have to go get another drill.
Okay. You take your time. There's a bit of debate now about the distance between Boris and Edmonds and Simon Hopes.
I didn't know that Simon Hopes was in Lowestoft.
I have no idea where it is.
I thought it was. I thought it was down in Essex. But...
Right, I'm back.
Yeah, Paul Cardinal says, imagine having the choice of shops. Yeah, just imagine, Paul. We have like one woodturning shop in the north of Ireland. Well, we actually have a couple, but they're kind of too far apart and they don't do a great range of stuff. One, which is the woodshed.
Do, 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 do.
He says I should make a false leg. Yeah, it's not. It's just not quite that. Just that dire, just quite yet. It's getting better. It'll be fine.
Bit strange using this drill. It's heavy compared to the other one.
And Lucy adds to the debate. She says that Darren Breeze is low stuff.
He is in lower stuff.
Yeah, Darren Breeze. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, actually, Adam says that Simon Hope's down in Essex.
Right.
Great Bromley.
Kevin 9K says Darren has keen pricing as well.
Yeah.
Heather's off to she's off to heading to a craft show tomorrow in Goodwood, Ontario, aka Schitt's Creek, for anyone familiar with the Canadian TV show. And that's SCHITTS.
You'll be all right, Kate. They're a friendly bunch in Ely.
And Alan Gibbs says it's certainly a lot quieter without Terry. Well, this is true because Terry just loves to hear his own voice.
Right, so that's sanded up to 400 grit. Oh.
Ow.
It's not a bad piece in look of wood, Steve, you got there.
No,
It's
it's
quite
not.
nice, actually.
Considering that was a Maggie on the outside.
Yeah. Is it chestnut?
Looks like it to me.
Yeah.
But I've known to been wrong once or twice before.
Yeah, me too. I usually have to ask my wood guru, William.
What do you reckon, William? Is it chestnut? Right, so let's bring that in close. Let's get this sand and sealed. So I'm going to sand and seal this, and then we're going to Yorkshire grit it. And then what's the time? If we get time, we will reverse it and remove the tenon.
Andy says there's less insults without Terry as well. You're right, Andy.
Less chaos.
Let's just make the best of it. Let's just make the best of it. He'll be back.
He'll be back with, and he'll be full of it.
Oh, totally. You'll be hearing about his holiday for the next 6 months. But let's not.
How long was Terry away for?
10 days.
27.
Let's not let him forget that he got sunburnt having breakfast yesterday. Let's keep that in the back of your mind, folks. So when he does return, his new fighting name is Terry the Lobster Bray.
Terry the Lobster Bray.
Right, the boy says, "Barry,
No, I'm not in
you
the
be sent to the
bathroom.
He's sitting in the bath, Roy.
He's
Yeah.
not using a headset as the why there's a bit of a it sounds a bit echoey.
Yeah.
That's why. Mike Juice says it certainly looks like chestnut.
I might have been right. I might have been right.
Yeah.
Right, so 2 coats of sand and sealer. Gonna let that dry off.
Kevin 9K says, Kate, just get to ask a lot of questions. Brackets, I'll explain when I see you. Just take Kevin, he asks loads of questions.
If you're doing colouring, Kate, make sure you take some plum. Because
Yeah.
Roy loves plum.
Yeah.
Roy the boys loves plum, yeah.
Right, Yorkshire grit. Original.
Kate says she loves questions, and so do I. I love questions too. Everybody should ask questions. Start to rain at my house. That's not good. That's not good news.
It's just starting to get dark here.
Yeah. The sun has just disappeared over the Mourne Mountains from my house, so it will get dark fairly quickly now.
I don't know when I'm at Ely. I don't know if that's June or July I'm at Ely. Can't remember.
Kate says she's planning on making wooden animal. I can nearly talk the same.
It's the alcohol.
Planning on making I've had a ton of coke. Wooden animals at
Yeah,
Ely.
That's not the can of coke. The problem. That's the shot of gin in it.
No, I didn't. It was just a straightforward ton of coke. I hadn't. How's the horse with the lame foot doing? Ward, the horse with the lame foot is kind of cured of the lame foot. He's doing rather well at the minute, actually. We're just kind of hoping for some decent grass to try and fatten him up a wee bit because he lost a whole lot of condition over the winter. And Lionel has joined us. Good evening, Lionel.
I know.
No, currently Andy says, have you any problems with the animals? I hope. No problems with the animals, I hope, right? No, fingers crossed, they're all good at the minute. They're all just, I put them into a new paddock yesterday with lots of lush grass, so they'll be starting to recover their body weight after losing a bit in the winter time, which they're supposed to do. That's what's supposed to happen.
Speed this up a little bit.
Yeah, the other thing about the horse war disease, he's definitely confirmed as having Cushing's disease. So it's going to be just a constant now trying to manage his condition and keep him right.
Right, so let's get that buffed off.
Yeah, they are, Andy. I'm definitely lamer than the horses at the minute. But there's not much you can do for an Achilles tendon. You just have to ice it and stretch it. Well, not ice it and stretch it at the same time. Ice it, let it warm up again, and then stretching exercises. And nothing else you can do.
Will it get better over time?
Yeah, well, I had it my right foot to begin with.
Okay.
That's gone. It's fixed. The right foot's perfect. But then, as soon as I got rid of my right foot, it started on my left foot.
Do you think that's because you was compensating with the other foot, or?
I have no idea, but it's exactly the same thing. It's Achilles tendonitis, and it means that the root, just the right of the very back of your heel is extremely painful.
Mm.
And it's even sometimes sore to take your sock off and on, you know. And I'm no Robert. Robert says, "Do you manage it with drugs, Brian?" No, I tend not to use any pain-killing medication unless I'm in dire agony. I can suffer it just at the moment.
Pain is a good reminder that you got an injury.
That's correct. I don't even like giving my horses pain medication. Oh, Robert says for the horse. Yeah, but I don't like giving them it. If you give them pain medication, they feel as if they're okay, and they could make it worse.
Yeah.
So it's actually better for them to feel a little bit
That's
of pain.
what pain is. The pain is there as a warning, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Exactly what it's for.
Exactly what it is.
Yeah. Walt says it's from running away from Michelle. Yeah.
He ain't that quick, Ward.
I don't have to run from Michelle. She couldn't catch me anyway.
Well, she could at the moment.
Rob says that's the problem with being an international sports star, Brian. Yeah. That's a long time since I did any sport of note. I did used to be a 5,000 metre runner, right enough. Yeah, Malcolm said he had plantar fasciitis, which has a similar effect. It's very, very painful. You're right.
It's very painful. I've suffered with that myself. So.
Yeah. But thankfully, it's on the mend. It's getting better every day.
Good.
Right, let's give that one
Yeah,
more.
that's looking gorgeous. That's looking gorgeous, says Lucy.
Thank you very much.
And Kate says that's a gorgeous, gorgeous shine you're getting on that. A luscious sheen, she said.
Let's give it one more polish.
Luscious.
And I think that'll be as far as that's going to go.
Poaching. Copious amounts of poaching, Brian. Works great from the inside out, that is, says William Kenny. Yes, William. I can recall the last time I had poaching. Well, I can recall about 2 days after having the poaching. I lost a weekend because of that.
Mm.
So drug as I take it?
No, poaching, no. Irish illicit whiskey.
Oh, right.
Like moonshine for the American.
Ben says he suffers from migraines, and the best pain killer for that is sleep.
Sleep, yeah.
Right, so that is as far as that's going to go.
Looks lovely.
So let's turn this light off now. We don't need that on.
Rob was thinking of dominoes, darts, and board games.
Right, so
Yeah.
what's the time? Have we got time to take 10 off?
It is, yeah, just coming up on, can't even see my clock, 20 minutes to 9. Yeah, you can take 10 off, of course you can.
How much you got to bet the cold jaws to be the wrong size?
Yeah, well, it's guaranteed.
They always are.
That's one of those things, like the toast will always fall jam down or
Yeah.
butter down. Always, it's guaranteed. Oh no, I think they might be right. I think.
You might be lucky there, Steve, looking at those.
I don't know. I think they might be a little bit too big. Ooh, they're just going to be that little bit too much, aren't they?
I think they should. I think they have to come in one hole. I think. We'll see.
Right, so bit of
Squeeze it
tissue,
up and give it a go.
bit of tissue on the thingy so it doesn't scratch our piece. Just bring those in there.
Might just make it. No, I think you're gonna.
I think I'm going to have to drop it down one hole.
I think you might have to. Yeah. You might just catch it.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
You're in, yeah.
That's it.
Rob
That's it.
says. Rob from Kleinsport says, I once went to Ireland with a father-in-law who was Irish. I know how we got there on a Sunday afternoon, and we got back 4 days later. The bit in between, yeah, maybe a bit foggy.
So we're going to be using a spindle gouge just to remove this tenon. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to be pushing into the piece to keep the piece secure into the cold jaws. Because if I try and go across, I could pull it out. Because all we're relying on is it just nipping on the base part of these cold jaws here. So we're going to turn the lathe down. Don't want to be going massively fast with cold jaws. We're just going to gently nibble away at this.
Sorry, Steve. Dev Barnes got to go. He says, thanks, Steve. Very informative. I'll catch up on the rest later.
All right, mate. Thanks for coming over. Nice to see you.
Good man, Des. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Des. Bye.
Devin 9K said he had to make a push plate today to do the same, Steve. Is that a friction plate? Same thing, push plate, friction plate.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
And Malcolm Douglas says you could use a vacuum chuck.
You
And
could.
you don't need to change the cool jaws.
One problem there, mate.
I've got one.
I ain't got one.
Kate says, question, what speed are you taking the tenon off at RPM?
Around about 450, 500.
500 is quite well. With the cold jaws, you shouldn't be exceeding, I think it wasn't the big ones, 600, is it?
I don't know. I'll have a look when I stop because it's written on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 600.
Yeah, I think so in the big ones, yeah.
Yeah,
The smaller ones is 800, but
I believe so, yeah.
The bigger ones are 600, I think. Yes, Kim.
So just slow, light passes.
Ah, Robert from Hodgepodge has joined us. Hi,
Oh, Rob, how you doing?
Hello, Robert.
Don't forget,
How's
guys.
Harry?
Don't forget, guys. Next week it's Battle of the Makers are back.
Oh, no, it's not, is it?
Yep.
I might not be here.
What do you mean you might not be here? What's the matter with you?
There's an international horse event in Ireland. I might have to go to.
Oh, well,
So
you
I might
better take your team captain.
better take my iPad with me. And hope there's a good signal in the hotel.
So I'm just going to pick it up a little tiny bit.
I'll think about that. Rob from Klingsport says, Steve, do you do 3D printing to order? I'm looking for someone to print something for me.
Yes, mate. If you got the STL file, I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
So just a little real light push cut across there now. Nice and light, because obviously the centres are rotating really slowly.
Benjamin says,
Benjamin says, it's 600, not 6,000. That explains a lot, actually.
Oops.
Hello, Ben.
And my phone's going. It's the governor.
Kate's asking, what's the Battle of the Makers?
Oh, okay. What's going on there?
Robert says, Brian and Steve dress in battle armour and fight till one man loses.
Right, so.
Oh dear. I can't believe you don't know what the Battle of the Makers is, Kate. You've just let yourself down badly there. Disc.
It's a monthly quiz that we do, Kate.
It is. We've only been doing it for about 3 years now.
No, it can't be that long, surely.
It is.
Is it?
It must be getting on for that, yeah.
It is.
Quite a long time now, isn't it?
Oh, perhaps it's time for a change in. Right, so we're just going to gently sand that off. Get the extraction on helps.
Hey, Rob says, cool, I'll email it over. You can let me know the price.
All right, mate. So that was 80 grit. Take that up to 400.
Yeah. The quiz is good fun, Katie, but don't expect us to know the answers to any of the questions.
So do you know what special guest their worm is then, Katie?
No. Which I think she's about to find out. Me feels an invitation coming.
I'm working on next year's list.
Yeah, and Andy says it's the quiz that Susie knows most of the answers to.
Yeah.
Robert Broadwood says it's bloody hilarious. Well, that's a bit sometimes.
The funniest bit is that most of them are half cut before they get in.
Absolutely correct.
And by the time they're finished, they're even worse.
Yep. Absolutely. Couldn't possibly go to a quiz without having a drink. It's a pub quiz at the end of the day. I mean, what do you want? Kate says, have I just thrown myself under the bus again? Yes, you have, Kate.
I will be in touch.
Benjamin says, it's good fun, Kate, and they rotate the questions every third show.
Do you?
I tell you what, you lot wouldn't realise how hard it is to get questions.
I could imagine, yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. You can get questions, but getting them that this lot can answer.
Yeah, Steve.
What?
You think it's bad getting the questions? You want to be in my head trying to get the answers.
Trying to find the answers.
Right, let's just put a little bit of wax on there, sand and seal it and wax it.
And Lucy has asked a very pertinent question. Where is Susie?
She was in there to start with, wasn't she?
No, she wasn't.
Was
She
she?
was
I don't
not
think
there
so.
tonight. No, no,
Oh,
she
I
hasn't
haven't
been.
seen.
Perhaps on a bike somewhere then.
She's probably riding that bike again. Mind you, I haven't seen her for. No, I haven't seen her. Anybody's.
She was in
Chat
your
like
live
that.
last night.
Was she?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm positive.
Okay.
On the way to Yandles, probably.
Ooh, that'd be a ride, wouldn't it?
On the bike.
Yeah.
Right.
She
Just-
has threatened that on occasions to come and do a tour of England on a motorbike.
So just denib that. So you happy now? Look, didn't go through the bottom.
Uh-huh.
Faith in you, Steve. Every faith in you.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm
get
sure.
the magnifying glass out there and have a look. I had every faith, Steve. You were only bluffing when you said it was 5 mil thick. It's probably 5 centimetres you're thinking about.
Definitely thinner than 5 centimeters.
Rob says, I used the excuse if I was sober. I would know all these questions. Yeah, you're right, Rob.
Right, I think we are there. Get rid of all this rubbish. In the bin.
Well, Susie's definitely not going to Yandles because Lucy has her shopping list.
Chuck key over there. Right, let's get this out. I'm impressed that they was the right size.
That's yeah, so was I. That's actually very nice, Steve. I'm liking that.
So
It's a lovely natural colour bowl, that.
it's got a nice colour array down there of like light
Yeah.
yellows and browns and a slight hint
Very
of
nice.
green in there.
Oh, Douglas.
Yeah.
Douglas says,
very
question, what's the ring on the bottom?
What ring, you cheeky git? Where? That's the foot. What's it supposed to sit on? It's got to sit on something, surely.
It needs to have a little flat on the bottom. Yeah.
nice.
My cereal will roll out of it if I put it totally round.
Kate says, that's gorgeous, Steve.
Thank you, Kate. Well, at least there's one person in the chat who liked it. That's all they come over, Kate, for. Every week they all come over just to take the mick.
Mike Jew says, nice job, Steve. Lovely finish.
Thank you, mate.
Kev says, very nice. And Andy Woodward Leonard says, oh, you noticed it too then, Douglas? It's the ring in the bottom.
What size did it finish up, Steve?
Tape measure. Where did I do the tape measure? Oh, over here.
Start me.
Tape measure
Lucy
is
says, wow, that's beautiful, Steve.
William says good. You know, looks good.
180 mil across by
Robert says nice job,
Inches.
Steve.
Inches.
inches, old money. 7 inches, well, just over 7 and a 16th by just over 2 inches from the bottom to the top of the rim.
Nice size.
And so it's just over an inch and a quarter deep.
Lots of good comments coming in, Steve. Very nice.
Yeah, beautiful.
And
Excellent.
The wall thickness is 7 mil.
Very nice.
Nice shape, Steve. Bowl's not too bad either.
Ben says, don't drop it.
That was Andy Woodward Leonard said that. Starting to worry about you, Andy. Kevin Henke said a small bowl was a small bowl.
Just one more pass.
That's what he says, yeah.
That is, I reckon that's only about 5 mil thick in the bottom. That is a bit thinner in the bottom.
I'm sure it is. I'm only winding you up, Steve.
Right. So let's get him back onto here. That's
Very
screen
good,
there.
buddy.
Right, so basic bowl. Nothing high tech, nothing flash. Just a basic. Well, I wouldn't say it's a thin rim. About 7 mil the wall there, but I would imagine that the bottom is about 5. It's a little bit thinner on the bottom, so it's consistent till about this point here, where I've gone round, because obviously I didn't allow for taking the tenon off, because you have to take a little bit of the curve off for the tenon. So if I'd have kept that a little bit deeper, that'd been fine. But to be honest, would anybody really notice that difference?
No.
So a basic.
An ordinary punter would never notice.
No. So
Woodturner will.
just a nice continuous curve around. So if the bowl was continuously curved, the shape would continuously be there. And then obviously trying to match it on the inside. So you've not got a flat in the bottom, you've got a continuous curve in the bottom of your bowl. So there you go. That's basic bowl turning. I hope it's helped. If there's any questions.
I've got a question for you, but just want to say to Lucy, I've got the question, Lucy, and I'm just about to ask it now. Cheeky question from Kate. How much would you sell that for?
From who?
That's from Kate.
Kate Kitchen?
Yep.
Nothing, Kate. You can have it. Send me your address. I'll send it to you. You can have it.
Pricing is an issue that we kind of tend not to discuss.
No, definitely not. So, Mick said about tape measures. You know, I'm a builder by trade. I can guarantee there's at least 8 tape measures in the van. And the only reason being is if I'm working from home, I'll get one out of the van, use it, and leave it in the workshop. And then all of a sudden, I won't have none, so I'll have to put them all back in. But I always hunt for a tape measure, which I shouldn't do, really, because if I move this camera down, there is always a tape measure in this drawer, which I always forget about.
Mm-hmm.
But, oops, move the camera, Steve. So, any questions before we knock it on the head? I might even sign it for you as well, Kate, if you're really lucky. That might depreciate if I sign it.
might sign it. We want the thing to increase in value, not depreciate.
Yeah, no. Second that, I won't sign it. I'll just send you the bowl. You can put any name you like on the bottom of it then. Oh, I've got to put them out. I can't see now.
And Rob says, I'm always happy to help anyone with how to price and marketing. Good man, Rob.
Good man, Rob.
Pricing and marketing is a thing that's it's very geographical. Depends where you are and how much you can charge.
A shadow board would be great, Kev, if I had the room to put a shadow board up. I've got no more wall space. I've run out of wall space. I need a bigger workshop. That's what I need.
Green Heaven Creation says, that's Brian at Green Heaven says, what brand of sanding disc are you using?
I will show you.
I think it's Andassa, isn't it?
Let's have a look. I don't know what make
just because we bought a huge amount of it about a year ago.
Yeah, Andassa. These are the ones. I haven't used any of that sandpaper yet. The reason being is because I bought loads of these before I bought it.
Oh God.
So
well, that's Andassa. The stuff we bought is Andassa as well.
Yeah, exactly the same. It's just in long reels rather than.
Yeah.
Kate says, sign it, Steve.
Yeah, sign it. I'd love that. She says.
She'd love that.
Thank you, Kate. Okay, I'll do that. I'll put it on the laser engraver and I'll put a signature in the bottom of it.
And Andy says we're very cheap up here. We know, Andy.
Douglas Mullen says, Steve, the series of lives is great. Thank you.
It's all right, Douglas. I'm going to do a few more. Me and Brian's been talking about this for a few weeks, to be honest.
Yep. Yeah,
we're gonna do a few lives and videos on just basic stuff, right from mounting right through to finishing, really, and everything in between. Because we just think, we think sometimes that it's nice. I personally think sometimes it's nice just to go back and do the basics, because even though I've been talking about it, it refreshes me as well. So that's always good to do. And it helps the new people coming up the ladder as well. So that's even better, because we all started off knowing nothing. And if it hadn't been for the YouTube community and the turning community, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I just want to try and pass on some of the knowledge that I've learned. I'm not saying it's all perfect, but I would just like to pass on some of the knowledge that I've learned onto some of the people who are less experienced, let's say.
Right.
Let's bring you guys back.
Big Jew said he found a 25-metre roll of 240 grit today. Didn't even know he'd lost it.
Well, we bought.
That's what we've got to. We've got 50 metres, right, don't we? There you go.
So I haven't even used any of this yet. And that's 5. What is it?
Oh, wow.
180 grit, 120, 240. I don't know what the
400. 400.
Yeah.
No, aye, yeah. 240, 400. We didn't get 320.
No.
But I'm working my way through that, Rob. So Rob says that bursts out crying. Oh dear, sorry, Rob. But I will be trying some of yours when I need to buy some more.
Blooper, Andy, I would love to do a blooper video, but when you've got over 600 videos on YouTube, there's a lot of information to go through to try and find the bloopers. So I don't think I'll be doing that, to be honest.
So Robert Klingspor says they're producing a series of videos on basics of abrasives, and that will be going live shortly.
That's good.
Very good, Rob. We're looking forward to that.
I'll give you a call, Roy.
Straight from the horse's mouth. That's good.
Good.
Kate Kitchen says, "Wow, Brian, you're working in the background." Yeah, have a piece or two here, Kate. Yeah.
Just a piece or two.
Just one or two pieces, yeah. These ones at the top here. These are my favourite pieces. These are poppies up here, and then there's some artistic pieces as well. And, yeah, some nice bits.
Very nice.
Right, we'll go then if there's no good questions.
Cool. That was very good. I thoroughly enjoyed that. It was an excellent live demonstration of how to turn a bowl.
Well, hopefully it helps somebody. That's the main thing of it.
So as you said, Steve, it helps the newbies, but it also gives them more experience to turn a reminder of what should be doing. Because we all get into bad habits at times. So.
Yeah, I know. I never used to come in there and do beads or coves or just a bit of roughing out just to get the muscles going. I used to just go into whatever I was doing. But since I have been doing the beads and coves and just practicing, I've noticed a difference because it just gets you into the swing of things.
It does, eh?
It's just muscle memory, isn't it?
Gets you into the flow.
Exactly. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming over and joining us. Hope you've enjoyed. Thank you to Barry for coming over and breaking your virginity with us. Your worming cherry. It's popped his worming cherry.
Enjoyed it.
See, I told you it wouldn't be too harmful.
He'll be back.
He will be back. Right. So thank you very much for everybody for coming over. Kate, send me your details and I will ship this out to you. Or like Roy said, if I can get it to Roy before you demo, then I will get it to Roy because he only lives,
there you go.
I don't know how far from me. What is it, 20 minutes, 40 minutes or whatever it is. So, or actually, I might even come to Ely and watch her. That'd be even better, wouldn't it?
That would be a good thing. You could present it to her in person.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
She's just put in there. That was amazing. Love it. Thank you so much, Steve, and everyone else for making my day. The bowl is gorgeous. Can't wait to own it.
I will bring it to you personally, Kate. I will find out. Let me. When she's there? Did she say in the chat when she's there?
3rd of May.
3rd of May.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the 3rd of May. Just confirm that for me, Kate, if you wouldn't mind. I think it was the 3rd of May, she said.
Don't forget to hit the like button on the way out if you've not already done
it. Kate just says, "Oh my God."
We're all human, Kate. We're all human. We all come the same way. We all go the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
The pressure. What? The pressure. What pressure?
Oh, the pressure. And she's demonstrating that night too.
Well, I promise I won't watch you if that makes you nervous.
Oh, yes, you will. No one to confirm it. It is the 3rd of May. That's what she said, Alice. 3rd of May.
Right.
Don't tell him, she says.
That's all right. I'll ring Mark and ask him.
There you go. Oh, very good, Kate. You definitely have to come on as a special guest here, Will.
Yes, definitely. We'll. I'll be in. Oh, actually, I'll speak to you when I come to Ely, and we'll arrange. Take a video camera, Steve. Yeah. We'll arrange a time to get you on next year because I've got all booked up for this year. So, but I'm looking for people for next year, so you're on my list. Right, let's go then.
Excellent.
I will find out when you are there, Kate, and I will be there. I will bring the bowl, and I will be there.
You better write your name on it because you'll forget.
First Wednesday in May.
I know you.
Is that meeting?
Yeah, I've got a marker pen here. Hang on. Kate.
I just write it right across the middle of it.
Just
Kate.
got Kate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the 3rd of May.
Right, 3rd of May.
Just-
I will
just-
be there.
Just don't watch or listen, she says.
Oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine. Right. So, what was I going to say? Right. So, thank you very much, everybody, for coming over. I hope you've all enjoyed. Don't forget, we have still got the Makers T-shirts as a going thing for
Oh, yeah.
this year's Makers auction. We need to discuss. I and the guys need to discuss who we're going to do the auction for this year. It is going to go ahead, as far as I know. Well, I'd like it to go ahead.
Yep.
Because we've done some amazing work for charities. I think I had a rough workout the other night. Over the last 2 years, we've raised nearly £10,000 for 2 charities. So that's absolutely amazing. So thank you very much to each and everyone. So we're going to do it again, but we're not sure who we're going to do it for yet. We need to discuss who we're going to do it for, but
We're definitely doing it, and I'm auctioning this piece.
Oh, look at that! Wow.
So that's going to be my auction entry.
Nice.
It's very nice.
It is a stunner.
Very nice.
Just because I don't really want to keep it myself.
Right, so we are going to be doing the auction. So I know there's people already been asked or been messaging me about donating stuff. So I'm going to have to, again, like I did last year, limit it to the people. And no offense to anybody, but I think if new people want to donate, then we need to be able to give them the option rather than keep using the same people over and over again. I know it sounds harsh, but we can't auction off everybody's piece.
No.
We can do like we did last year. We put a few pieces in raffle, but sometimes you feel like you're downgrading the piece if you put it in a raffle. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what pieces we've got, and we will see what happens nearer the time. But myself and the guys will get together, and we'll arrange. We'll have a chat and see what charity we're going to go for, and then we can make an announcement and let you guys know. So, if we're going to are we doing it in October? Are we?
October, yep.
Right, so
Probably beginning of October if we can.
Yep. So we need to start looking at it and getting on with it.
Yep.
So anyway, we'll look into that. I will be back Sunday on the lunchtime live. Not Brian. Wayne is on tomorrow night. Pete's covering Terry on Sunday, I believe.
Sunday night, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, Sunday
And
night.
then Brian will be back on Monday.
Hopefully back on Monday night,
yeah.
yeah.
Hopefully with his foot will be back. So
Brian William Kenny says first bid a £5.
William Kenny says it all the time. I'll give you a £5 for that.
We'll have it in euros. It's worth more. Right. So thank you very much all for coming over. I hope you've enjoyed. If you've enjoyed it, then please smash that like and share button. Thank you to all the new people come over. Really do appreciate that. What?
Have you seen Rob from Kingsport's comment? He says, and we'll be doing it again as well. And then 2 seconds later, he says, you can stick ours in your raffle. You've already upset me. Oh, God. There's really a sense of humour, Rob. That's all I can say.
Yeah, Rob, fine. Rob did an amazing job last year. He actually donated loads of stuff last year. Thank you for that, Rob.
He did indeed.
Right,
Much
so
appreciated.
we're going to go. So as I was saying, all the new people come over. Thank you very much for coming over. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hopefully we'll see you back again. And other than that, we'll see you on the next one. So anyway, guys, have a great weekend, whatever's left. I'm going to be working my butt off tomorrow because it's my daughter's 18th birthday tomorrow. So no doubt I'll be chef, cleaner, gopher, dog's body, whatever. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, have a great weekend. Speak to you soon. Take care and bye for now. Say good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Thanks for coming in.
See you guys.
That's all, folks.